Hey YouTube. So there's been a few new followers now actually on the YouTube channel, and I thought that I would introduce you guys to me and who I am. And I'm a 31-year-old bladesmith from Finland. I've been making knives for about 20 years. I've forged by hand a few thousand knives, and I've come and designed dozens of different products. And I've been my main focus, my main goal is basically to combine a mixture of traditional uh, um, forging, traditional artisan techniques with modern manufacturing methods. So kind of mix it all up, and part of the process of that is researching an enormous amount of information about ancient cultures. For example, in Japan, with Japanese means of making knives, they use a lot of this process called cold forging, which is an excellent way to refine the grain structure of their steel and get higher quality products and stuff like that. And then, of course, in the West, we like to use a lot of plasma cutting or water cutting and things like that. So there's sometimes I use, CAD programs and then get manufacture, and then sometimes I just do forging. So I got a huge spectrum of skill in many fields of different types of knife making. Now, the types of knives that I don't usually make are these types of super fancy. This is an 832 layer Damascus full tang chef's knife. This is completely hand forged. It took hours. This is like 200 hours or something to make this knife, and it was in a very popular Finnish museum for about a year, and very pleased with this. But I won't be making knives like this for a while still until I get this power hammer, because I don't have a power hammer, and this was all forged in a coal fire. But I have, as you can see, serial number 45. I have made quite a few of these. It all goes back to when I was very young. When I was around 4 or 5 years old, I was like, you know what, I'm going to have a professional military career, and I want to become, special forces, and work my way up from there. And because of that, I ended up eventually studying escape and evade tactics. So what do you do when you're caught, and how do you, survive, being caught by the enemy, escaping and evading. And part of that practice, and this was all self-practice, part of that sort of training regimen that I had for myself was to learn how to make tools. So if you escape the enemy and you're going through specific rural areas, you might find some springs, you might find some stuff, and forging a knife in order to survive several months of hiking back into friendly territory. And that's where my knife making started. It was part of a sort of a way for me to train myself to survive escape and evade scenarios. And after that, I did end up going to the military. Did very well there. I had 4 or 5 captains that were retiring that year that all came to shake my hand and said I was the best they'd ever seen. So I'm very proud of my experience there. I'm a sergeant in the reserves, in mechanized infantry. Man, we blew through thousands of rounds of ammunition through machine guns. PKM was such a dream to shoot. Dragunovs, rocket launchers. I got to shoot Apilas, Kertasinko, the telescopic single shot. We threw grenades. I threw like 20 smoke grenades. Man, it was quite an awesome experience riding in those CV90-30s and watching live artillery barrages and stuff like that. It was quite an incredible experience, and learning how to use radios and most importantly, the most important skill set, of course, was the leadership training. I was a squad leader. I had to take care of roughly 12 guys. I mean, it was more of a fire team in my end because of the role I was assigned. But it was an incredible experience, and I'll never forget it. And I always have a little bit of regret for not continuing that path, because when I was there, I realized, a few things about not necessarily military career, but just the nature of war. Seeing those live artillery barrages completely annihilate entire forest lines. And I don't know, I started getting second thoughts. I don't want to get I don't want to jump out of a helicopter and land on a landmine and then blow my testicles off. And then, there was just, I realized that even though I trained for 10, 15 years, I realized there was something to it that didn't feel right. And part of all this training, I have 14 or something national gold medals, or national medals. Some are mostly are gold in practical shooting, IPSC. So I once beat the world champion in a sort of small duel on the side of a competition. It wasn't like a completely official thing, but it was 0.02 seconds faster. And I think I was about 16, 17, 18, and he's a well-known world champion. So there was a little point in my life where I was actually, for a brief moment, one of the fastest shooters in the world. And I think I've always been proud of that. But again, with the guns, it's very expensive. You can't go shooting every week hundreds of rounds of ammunition if you don't have a proper income. After the military, I went to mechanical engineering to get a degree in engineering, and I didn't really fit in too well there. There wasn't enough women for me to be around there. That's honestly what it was. It's just it got kind of tiring just being around a bunch of guys all the time, and I really wanted to find a girlfriend. And also, it was pretty difficult to keep up with all the work we had. It was quite overwhelming because the time I spent in the military, I forgot a lot of the basic mathematics that I needed. But anyway, what happened is I was very familiar with all the manufacturing techniques because of the knife making. I had already been making knives for many years at that point, and I knew about heat treatment. I knew about design. I knew about manufacturing techniques. So I actually fit in really well, especially with all the practical approach of things. I knew the names of all the machines. I was the only one in the whole degree who had ever used a lathe or vertical mill or belt grinders and all the machines, welding and stuff like that. So it came kind of second nature, all the applicational stuff. And I went to go, one of my original motivations in life was to go and do gun design. So I applied for a job at Sako and went for an interview, and part of the interview they were like, hey, what do you think about at 4 a.m. I had to be there at 4 a.m. Crazy. I just didn't like that idea. But they showed me around the entire facility, and I got a really wonderful guide, like a tour of the whole facility. And I realized like every single step of the entire process of Sako is exactly the same as all my knife making. Every stage of knife making is the same as an engineering facility. So then I started realizing that maybe instead of pursuing all these things, why don't I just go full into the knife making and learn my ways there, and sort of just grow with that. And that's basically where it picked up from, just from that point on. And so I've been making so many knives from that point on. I've made a lot of really cool friends in the knife making world and learned a lot. And one thing led to another. Now I'm making all sorts of series of knives. And, one very, very successful design that I have here, which is the Scalpel EDC, which you can buy from my website. They're about 50 euros each. This is my most successful product. There's people in Hawaii, in Australia, China, Japan, Africa, every place in the world this knife is all over. This is my most successful product. It's very light, about an ounce, about 30 grams with the sheath. Lightweight. It's got a full-sized handle. You can knock things with that in if you want to. In terms of EDC, self-defense, you can kind of hold it like a punch dagger too. You got very, very good grip on a small blade, which is quite lovely because in many places and most times you don't really need much more than this for opening stuff and skinning animals. Like, this is a really, 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 really wholesome blade design that's also very female friendly. You can have this in a purse. A lot of women that buy these are in South America, for self-defense. So this design has really kicked off, and it's very popular, and it's really recommended. Of all the knives I carry every day, this is the one. This is the first thing I put on around my neck in the morning. It's the last thing I take off before I go to bed. Now, the process of making knives, it also stretches out to, kitchen knives. Here's a stainless steel, sort of petty utility kitchen knife that I produce. and it's been a design that's been in the process for a long time, and it's finally reached a point that is very, very professional. These are quite popular too. They're custom ordered quite often. I have my own personal one here that's a little beaten up. I use it almost every day, with a red curly birch handle. A lot of the wood, it grows out here. The curly birch, it grows out here, and that's what I use. I stabilize it, and all the materials are local. We got also here, this is a relatively popular product, which is the rivet lock bulka. Now this one has a red kydex on the inside there, just to add a little thing. It's a little test I did the other day. This has been a product, the rivet lock series has been a product that's been, there are hundreds and hundreds of prototypes. It started off with the Ukko-Pekka series and the buckthorn series, where I was practicing the manufacturing techniques, and eventually we led to this point where I started producing the rivet lock series. And you have rivet lock pikals, rivet lock bulkas. These are all forged by hand from round stock spring steel. And if you look at some of the videos online, I got a couple videos where I'm bend testing the rivet lock bulka long. It's like 6 or 7 times in a row over 90-degree bend test. I mean, this thing, it does not break. It is so tough. And part of that, I think, comes from the Japanese style of cold forging blades. Now, when I'm out here in the countryside, I don't go anywhere without this, because it's so long, you can baton anything. It's so light, it's under 300 grams. You can hack some branches. It doesn't need to be any bigger than that. So this is one of the products that I'm most pleased about. I really, really, really love how this one turned out. And it was a process of communicating with Filipino martial artists, researching bayonets and World War I, World War II history, and how knives have been used. And I realized that actually one of the best all-around knives that you can have is something that's very long, very light, and very simple. And that's what this is. So this is another really, really great product. There'll be more of them coming up soon. You can contact me, of course, on Instagram at hot_metal_knives to get yourself a custom order of one of these. And yeah, I've done all sorts of stuff. I mean, from time to time, I like to do these kind of custom style bowies like this. That's not a kink, that's just a piece of wood. So all sorts of stuff. This was more for fun. I wanted to do one that had a ring here. We got other ones like this, of course, you know, pretty awesome looking blades. Sometimes I like to make them for fun. I just got these ideas laying around. There's things that are more utilitarian. I don't think I'll be making more of these though. This is the last one that's left. It's number 2, I believe, from the companion series. As you can see, it's quite a brilliant concept. And as you also may have noticed, there's some consistencies in all my designs. For example, putting a wood around the front of the handle there, putting a ring around the front of the wood there to prevent any cracking and splitting in the handle is very, very important. I've done things like this too, which is sort of artistic style bulkos with kind of a eccentric, pretty crazy looking handles. Forged kitchen knives, single bevel. This is called the Yakut series. So here's, for example, rivet lock style bowie with a frame rat tail handle. As you can see, very, very pretty and very nasty. I used to carry, this used to be my primary knife for everything, but I like it so much that I decided to sort of retire it. I don't want to damage it. I like to look at it. And yeah, that's what it is. And now I've started to, you know, collect knives from other manufacturers, for example, these kind of knives, so I can use them as reference points and discuss things and put my perspective out there on knives and do reviews online for knives. Because I've made so many. I've made so freaking many. Thousands of knives I've fabricated over the years. I mean, here's just the last batch of, you know, rivet locks. You can look at them. Just very basic, but very, very effective design. Quite light too, and very, very strong. Got a hollow grind with the skinning style point. So I've done all sorts of designs. It's been, you know, many, many years of working with steel to provide what I think are the best quality knives that I like to have. You know, I design something that I want, and then I make a batch or a series and sell the rest. So I'm not, you know, it's not like fantasy kind of knives. It's like, it's actually legit knives that I need out in the ranch and every day and stuff like that. Other types of knives too. For example, here's my neck knife Pikal folder. This is one of my favorites. This is another one of these knives that I generally never go anywhere without. I just love Pikals a lot. It's sort of a niche market, and I use this all the time. It's just crazy. It's got a stainless steel frame here. It's from a tube that's been bent. I flattened it out and forged a blade for it. Really, really neat. So I do things like this too. But generally I stick to series kind of stuff, and lately I've been mostly focusing on these. So I got lots of custom orders for these kind of kitchen knives, the stainless steel series, and then these scalpels as well. And there's a few more designs that I'll be getting cut and to manufacture knives that are like, so I got, for example, some more EDC blades like this, and this is the actual size, so kind of like a boot knife Bowie with a sharp clip point, things like this. I'll be getting water cut and to work on EDC RV2 or something basic, 4mm thick or whatever. And other types of knives that I do, I've also been making a lot of these kind of very basic, simple carbon steel Yanagiba style knives with the Uras here. This is kind of a lovely little kitchen knife. They're very basic, but people like these, and especially when they're not super expensive. You know, it's not a full-blown, real laminated Yanagiba that's needs, you know, you need to be careful with. That's a bit more something that you can abuse. And yeah, that's like the bulk of a lot of the kind of knives that I make. It's everything from stainless steel kitchen knives to completely hand forged, you know, artistic stuff to series oriented, you know, knives like this one. And this one's number 30 from the Rivet Lock Buko mediums. I've made hundreds and hundreds of these types of knives, and so it's just, you know, the all-around experience that I have, and it's something that I've been completely dedicated to for a very long time. And hopefully my goal now is to kind of grow a community and get people together to, you know, buy these products, test them, see what they like, what they don't like, and continuously improve. And as I get bigger and bigger, I get apprentices, and I can sort of start a more high level of production, especially with things like, you know, these Rivet Lock Bukos. These are really fun, and I think they, you know, when you look at the design, the overall design, look how narrow that rivet lock completely negates the width here from being forced to lock into the handle in order to create a good lock. And when it's like this, it doesn't go anywhere. You can suspend it upside down. You know, you got a very, very good lock, and it keeps the overall profile very, very thin, so you can very easily snug it between some, you know, blankets or in your pocket and stuff like that. So it's very easy to carry. I like to, when I make knives, I like to design them a little bit so that they are, you know, fighter friendly, and with a lot of utility. And spring steel is a very, very, very good knife steel when it comes to how robust it is. There's a very good edge retention, and it's more than enough that you need for most of your tasks, especially when you're thinking about a knife that won't shatter on you and won't chip on you and things like that. So very, very, I'm very pleased with how all these products are turning out. It's a lot of work to do to make them. The prices are a little low, I have to admit, but they'll go up as I get more popular. And as my brand name goes out there, more and more people are buying my knives. I'm sure a lot of you have watched a lot of my videos. There's other things that I've been working on too. So here's the Kisaki. This is a product I'm putting a little bit on hold for now. It's a very, very badass, very, very sharp, very nasty chopper slash EDC slash overall utility knife. This design alone took about 8 years to design, and there's still some improvements that need to be made. But here's, you know, for example, just the sort of stuff I'm into. I'm a big fan of Scandi grinds. I really am. So, but yeah, very basic. It's got that rivet lock, so you can very easily lock it in place. Have a thin sheath, overall profile. This chops like crazy. So all sorts of different knives, all sorts of wide varied range of different types of knives. And, you know, for example, with these scalpels. They come in all sorts of different colors. You got police blue, coyote brown, blueberry pink. Again, you can get these from my website, and it helps a lot when you order those, because they're right now financing a lot of the work that's going on, these scalpels at the forge. And yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. I don't really do custom orders that much. I'd like to do more, but the problem with custom orders is that they actually take away a lot of the productivity that I need to associate with creating series. So when I'm making custom orders, I kind of have to set everything aside to do those, and it's very difficult to keep up with the bulk of the rest of the work when I got all those custom orders to do. But yeah, just a heads up, things are constantly improving. Another thing that I've just updated to my website now is a merch aspect, so you can actually get like sweaters, hoodies with my logo on them, and that helps a lot too. When you buy those, a small bit of that goes profit like into the company, so I can buy things like power hammers and propane and things like that. And I'll be releasing more videos all the time. It's very difficult for me to make how to make videos, those fancy little forging videos and stuff like that, because I seem to have a lot of problems with figuring out how the cameras work and stuff like that. I'll set the GoPro up, and sometimes it runs for 5 minutes and shuts off. Sometimes it runs for 20 minutes and it doesn't save anything. So there's just, I have a lot of friends who do filming, video editing and stuff like that. So in the past, I have had like professionals come and help me out with that. But right now, the best I can do is these kind of videos that I know are reliable, that I know people can watch. And yeah, that's about it, guys. I mean, oh, here's one. This is one of the early, this is rivet lock bulk small. I forgot to show that. Very thick and chubby little blade. But yeah, guys, that's the gist of it. And welcome to HMK. And this is the maker. I'm Thomas Romberg. And I hope you guys enjoy. And I would, I really appreciate all the follows and the people supporting my work, because some of you guys really support everything I do. You like everything I post, you share everything I post, you tell your friends about it, and those people do get rewarded. I do send free little blades and stuff like that, and I do give gifts to people who support my work a lot, and people who've bought 30, 40, 50 knives from me. I'll send them free shit all the time. So thank you guys very much, and it means a lot to me, and this is where the bulk of all my money comes from. So it's a full-time thing for me, and it's a heck of a lot of work to do all the marketing, all the videos, all the forging, all the grinding, all the testing, every aspect of everything. And at some point I'm going to need to find a way to get people working for me and apprentices, so that I can keep doing all this stuff while having a large production base. And that's why, for example, a lot of the plasma, that's the water cutting and stuff like that helps, because it does cut down on a lot of the work. But yeah, I'll be doing videos and giving the best sort of commentaries that I can give, whether it's reviews or product design and stuff like that. And I'll be listening to everything you guys say, and just we'll go from there one step at a time. Thank you guys again, and you can support me by buying these scalpels from my website at hotmetalknives.com, and I'll see you guys later.